We're back. And we're moving into our first conversation for this morning as we dive deeper into the new policy of having trade license fees charged within smaller municipalities like villages. It's a very interesting development, and we decided to get some feedback from 3 village leaders to find out what they think and what they have to weigh into this move. We have with us the Chairlady of Caulker Village, Seleny Villanueva Pott. We have the Chairman of Ladyville Village, Bernardo Bennett, and we have the Chairman of Seine Bight Village, Jose Aleman. Good morning.
Good morning, David.
All right, we got South Islands and right here on mainland, just a stone's throw away from Belize City. How are you all doing?
Good, thank you. And yourself? How are you guys?
Good.
Now, of course, we're talking this morning about the announcement that was recently made that small municipalities, which are, villages, are going to be able to charge trade licensing fees within their municipalities. And of course, that caused a lot of talk, both, within the media and on social media. And now, you as leaders and authority figures within the village, I'm wondering what was your initial reaction when you heard the announcement? We'll just get feedback from everyone. So perhaps we can start with you, Seleny. What was your first reaction when you heard?
Morning, everybody. Morning, fellow chairpersons. For us here in Caulker, it's a little bit exciting because, like most villages, we only get $4,000 subvention monthly, and that's not even enough to cover our weekly payroll for our staff. There's a lot that is expected from local government. With all the rains, one of the things that we have to do right now is street repair. And per annum, street repair costs about $150K. Of course, there's the flip side to that. There's the con, and a lot of people are wondering what prices we're looking at for trade license. A lot of people are saying, we're just out of pandemic. The tourist season haven't really kick-started yet. This is an additional expense. Again, so there's the flip side. So we have to be really careful as to what we sit down, and when these boards are set up, we have to be very considerate. But I believe it can work if we all sit down and we discuss it before it's implemented.
Yeah.
And Bernardo, what was your thought?
Good morning once again. I'd like to say good morning to the residents of Ladyville and good morning, Belize. I was very happy to hear this announcement that came out of Cabinet, because I kind of thought to echo the same sentiment of Chairlady Ms. Seleny from Caulker. Just this morning, I got a message like 6 o'clock asking me to please go and see if I can assist to clear a couple drains and see what I can do for at least a number of streets that are left in bad condition after a few days of rains, no? So I believe that this proposed trade license amendment is good because, one, it will definitely bring much needed revenues to village councils, especially large developing villages like Ladyville, of course, Caulker and Seine itself, no? So I believe this will definitely be able, once everything is worked out legislative-wise, as long as we decide on the mechanism and method of how this will be implemented. I believe that these villages will benefit a lot, and they will be satisfied with the work of the village councils, all of these municipalities, not small municipalities.
Yeah.
And Jose, finally you.
Yes, as it relates to our duties as village council members, those duties, I must say, are very huge and broad as your community tend to develop and more people, your population increase. The work in itself, the only revenue I would assume all other communities receive would be that of liquor license. So when they made mention of the trade license coming in, this was all excitement per se. However, as my colleagues had mentioned, it would perhaps has to do with the mechanisms that are put in place and the methods that will be used as to how these revenues will be collected and who basically will these revenues be collected from. Because if you look on the other side, like for instance, I saw a picture from a media house whereby they had a very dilapidated shop, putting it in the air out there as if these are the people that are going to be affected. On our end here, I would not think that would be the case. I think the focus would be primarily on resorts, large restaurants, and all these highfalutin businesses that are along the peninsula and along within different communities in itself that can generate the revenues that will be able to make payments, that will be able to for the development of the different municipalities.
Yeah.
And my brother, I am all excited about this trade license here.
But you know that, and that brings up a very important point and very interesting one, I think, is that within the different small municipalities, the needs are going to be very different from, village to village. We have, just this morning, Ladyville is a huge village. Some people even say it could be a town by now. Caulker and Seine Bight also have different needs based because of the tourism aspect, which contributes heavily to their economy. And I'm wondering, so perhaps, Bernardo, we can talk in terms of Ladyville, given that the municipality is so big. What do you think about how the implementation of a new policy like this will be? Will there be, is the council prepared to take on the additional work of all the accounting and, of course, the transparency measures that will be necessary?
Of course, yeah. Of course, Mr. Gavin and Ms. Marini, I am very excited as well, and I feel like with the implementation of this new revenue stream, we'll have to develop our capacity. Of course, I'm already thinking about probably have to have a full-time office open in the community to facilitate this trade license, collecting of the trade license fees. Well, I know right now, I'm thinking, and I'm not sure yet, but the way how the liquor license revenues are being collected is that each establishment go to pay at the Treasury Department upon approval of your license, and then the village council will then request it from through the Ministry of Local Government by way of signing certificates with the receipts number on it, and then that money will then be transferred from the Treasury Department to your village bank account. The Ministry of Local Government has and requests and demand a monthly financial statement from each village council monthly, and that will be submitted to your rural development officer, and he will there check every detail, make sure that you have your receipts, your checkbook, everything add up, and he will approve your statement, and that will be submitted and put in file at the Ministry of Local Government. Yeah. So I believe that the village council will have to prepare, and I am prepared to work to get this mechanism, the method work out smoothly for Ladyville, so that we can start to collect this new revenue stream. Here in Ladyville, we have at least 200 businesses. Yep. Ladyville spans from Calover Bridge going north to Boom Junction. Yep. And really just the irony about it, we have two auto rental, one just like a quarter mile from Calover Bridge going north, paying your license fees to Belize City. And as you cross the bridge, Calover Bridge, the same quarter mile, you have another auto rental operating that does not pay your license fees, none at all. True. So I believe some of the business persons probably will be glad that some businesses will start to pay some kind of expense that they're not paying and that are competing for the same market share, no?
And Bernardo, I think you're very well aware that some businesses have chosen to operate in your village because of this particular loophole. But I wanted to put it into perspective for a moment. I think, Seleny, you mentioned over $150,000 in terms of looking at street repair. How were you raising the money to be able to do the upkeep that you were doing before the idea of the trade license reform?
Marlene, we are heavily dependent on property tax, and that's one of the main income generators for Caulker. So that's the main revenue collector right now, and that's how we fix a lot of our streets. But under my leadership, what we've done is that there were a couple of people who did huge dredging projects, and they had royalties that they owed to the village council. Because when you get a dredging permit, there's a clause in there that says you're supposed to give a royalty back to the village council. What we did is we went out there and we spoke to those people and we asked them if they were able to assist us. And we were very fortunate that a lot of those people had heavy equipment. So we used the heavy equipment free of cost, and we worked out our street repair. So that really was what we used so far. And since the streets are really bad right now, we're hoping that we're able to get some more heavy equipment on the island. But that really is how we depend on it. Property tax is the main one.
Yeah, so some innovation there. And for you, Bernardo?
Marlene, all we can do, because the only revenue we get in Ladyville is the liquor license fees, which range between $20,000 to $25,000 per year. So what I will do, I will basically lobby the community. We have at least 3 construction companies that basically I will lobby or lobby the area representative.
Yeah.
And that's the way how we would get some level of infrastructure work done in Ladyville, no? And it's basically little to nothing, because in Ladyville we have at least about 50 miles of earthen streets. Yeah. So and if you double that, you will have, if you said each street have drainage on 2 sides, you have at least close to 100 miles of drainage that basically goes unmaintained, unkept over the past so many years, no?
So you're saying,
because we're still sitting here with our jaw dropped from the $25,000.
$25,000 annually is what the village council roughly collects?
Yes, about 25,000 in Ladyville, because that is because we are a big community, you know, and we have several restaurants, bars, shops, gas stations, and stuff that sell liquor. For argument's sake, Marlene, our monthly maintenance fee for just the public areas, which is cemetery, the parks, the playground, the sporting complex, we have at least about 5-6 parks in Ladyville, 2 football fields, and a cemetery, and the fee is like $3,500 per month. So what we will do to try to balance that, which I come out to about 40,000. So what I will do, I will lobby the community, lobby the representative, and whenever someone dies in the community and asks for a burial space at Birmingham, we'll ask for $100 fee. So that will go towards cleaning and maintaining of the cemetery.
Yeah, quite a bit of innovation that's had to be employed to make up. I don't even know if you make it up, but to be able to deliver basic services. What about you in St. Bight, Chairman?
Well, like Mr. Bennett mentioned, your liquor license fees varies, because like in St. Bight, we would receive to the tune of almost $35,000 to $40,000 a year. That is, we have more hotels, resorts to that extent, no? And of course, when collecting these liquor license fees, you have different classifications and types. So the more bars within a hotel, you would pay for a hotel 2, which would be $2,500 instead of $1,500. But our expenses are very crucial as well. St. Bight is a developed community, and of course, we always have to try and make sure that we are up to standard with our sister community, which is Placencia. And that in itself takes a lot of cleaning within the community. That is the trimming and the cutting of the roadside edges, the daily cleanup of the roadside edges, the cleaning of the beach, campaign project which we implemented starting June of this year, started with the high school students, and now at this point in time we have 4 full-time gentlemen on the beach having it clean and more eco-friendly for not only ourselves but our visitors, that is locally, internationally, and regionally. Mr. Bennett talked about the upkeep of the cemetery, the public areas, which include the multipurpose grounds. You're talking about the basketball court, the football field, no? And of course, these monies are not enough, but you have to be resourceful.
Yeah.
Go out there, try to lobby with the business people around you, try to see how they can assist the community. And these things takes time because you cannot just go to a businessman and tell him to jump.
Yes.
Of course, you have to be there on their backs, reminding them, and they would come out, of course, and give you that assistance. And at times, and this is no secret to no village council, you as the leader would be the ultimate one to go into your pocket just for consistency's sake, because of the mere fact that you do not want your community to think that the job is not being done.
Yeah.
I can tell you fairly that when we started our garbage collection, something that is pretty much new to Bight, because of the mere fact that garbage has or had been disposed at the back of the lagoon. And garbage is a big problem, and that is something that up to now we still cannot control, but we kind of man it out a little bit. From February up until liquor license was released, as a leader of the community, you would have either had to borrow the money to make payment or make payment from your pocket.
Wow.
Until that money is being released. No? But it's a big task, but it's a task worth doing, and that is the mere reason with this trade license, it would make a lot more things more feasible in terms of payments.
Let me ask, and whoever feels prepared to answer, go ahead. How many of you were reliant? Because there's the Ministry of Infrastructure that can assist with streets. There like youth and can help with things like football field. And then you have your area representatives, and in your case, Seleny, it'd be Ministry of Tourism. How much have you been reliant on these on the upper level of government to be able to provide for these basic needs that you needed in your village?
Well, basically for me, Marlene, I basically the Ministry of Infrastructure helped a lot in Ladyville community.
Yeah.
Recently, of course, you know, they upgraded the highway to hot mix standard, and a portion of the last bank road that passes through Ladyville, that entire road have been hot mix, and I'm heard that they're planning to do some more streets inside the community. So I'm looking forward for that. Recently, they have cleared some drainage that is key outlet to drain the community to the sea and to the river.
Yeah.
So I must applaud them and thank them for that assistance. And also I'd like to thank the Ministry of Youth, who recently sent a small donation to purchasing of lights for the football field.
Nice.
Because our lighting facilities are at like 25 years old, and that definitely need to change every so often above where the fixture will go out, no?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot to do, and we welcome this revenue.
And I asked that question for the simple fact that, is it that you feel they can be spending resources on other areas if you can maintain your own village?
Well, with respect to that, no, I must say this first, though, before I go to that point.
Yes.
I must give kudos to the collaborative efforts of the area representative, our area representative in particular, because I'm sure Seleny's and Mr. Bennett one is different. Through the Ministry of Rural Development and also the Ministry of Infrastructural Development and Housing, notwithstanding that we have over 20 communities within Stan Creek West, there is a cycle that plays out. And at this point in time, I must say that every community have received their cycle of the Ministry of Infrastructural Development coming into their community. However, fixing up a road does not mean that it will not deteriorate or needs to
True.
be fixed within the year span. So by lobbying with these guys within the different ministerial posts, they try to make available for their different infrastructural work through central government come to the community to assist. However, as you had mentioned, if this trade licensing is in place, then that simply makes ourselves not to be self-dependent on self-government, and they can focus on like smaller communities that may need that assistance with respect to them, giving them like road infrastructure, trimming of ball courts and football field. I could give you an example. The community of Georgetown does not make quarter of what Bight makes in liquor license fees. So that simply means instead of government having a lot more focus on Bight is a little bit self-sufficient, so that focus can go to another community.
So good. So good to hear that
balance there.
It's so good to hear that community-minded approach where you won't need, another community would be able to benefit. But let's take a look at this from the flip side, gentlemen and lady. What has been the consultation from businesses? I mean, what would be, have you had conversations, initial conversations as yet? I know this is a reform that is proposed and there's a process that has to be executed, but what are your thoughts at this point in engaging the businesses in your individual villages?
So far, the few owners of businesses I spoke to in Ladyville from since this news was made public, they are very much in support of paying some type of taxes to the community, because they basically see this have been something that have been talked about for years in Ladyville. Residents have keep on asking, Chairman, how come these villages are not paying any type of taxes to the council so that the village can receive some kind of help? So it's just a matter of how much they will pay and what will be the mechanism, and I believe that the business owners will come through to pay their trade license to the village council.
Mm-hmm.
Marlene, here on Caulker, the emotions are mixed.
Mm-hmm.
You have some people who are for it because then we will be able to control the amount of shops, or we'll be able to control the amount of different businesses. Like you rightly pointed out, there are some business owners who purposely choose to come put a business out in a village because they avoid trade license. So that will no longer be the case. Some people are a little bit hesitant and reserved because they're saying this is just another operational expense. But I believe once the right mechanism is put into place, it should be no problem, with them once they feel they're being charged fairly.
Marlene, I just want to put this in as well.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side of this too, it will give villages some type of autonomy and stuff in respect to somewhat of a zoning
Correct.
issue. For instance, maybe if a community part of Ladyville, for instance, because they will make up of like several different communities.
Yes.
Let's say somebody want to open a nightclub, a bar or something in the middle of a community, like, we can basically recommend to reject that trade license, and once you don't have a trade license, you can't open.
You cannot operate.
So this is one good thing that will come out of this as well.
Absolutely. Now, the formula is going to be so important as well, and the current structures for trade license board to review applications. We know in the past the chamber or the private sector has been working very closely. I can speak for Belize City, for example, in trying to find the right formula. There was at one point the system used with looking at rental value, the space that you occupy. And it's very clear that that wasn't something that could work across the board. The easiest example people usually use is an attorney may need one small space, but they'll earn far more than a larger shop in some instances. Has the conversation gotten that far in looking at what formula may be applied?
Well, so far, Marlene, what I've heard, I spoke to a senior valuation officer at the Belize City Council. As a matter of fact, I spent at least 7 years working at the council, so I have an idea of how evaluation and stuff and trade license are formulated. Basically, it's a rental value, And then that is if you're renting a space.
Yes.
And if you're not renting a space, they will go by square footage. And that will also depending on the area and the location of your business in the city. So, but what I'm heard, they try to standardize the trade license, something similar to your vehicle. If your vehicle weigh 3,000 plus pounds, between 3,000 and 4,000, you pay $350 a year. If it weigh less than 3,000, you pay 150. So it will be based on size, basically, no?
That's the same thing I heard, that it will be based on size, and they were still trying to work out an exact formula because they wanted to be fair with the smaller mom and pop businesses.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I was wondering about, and it seems odd that we've gotten this far in the conversation without mentioning it, but that's the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm just wondering, based on the traditional or the existing, I should say, difficulties that a lot of the small municipalities have faced with collecting revenue, that of course created a whole different a whole new dimension to an already existing problem. So I'm wondering how the municipalities have been dealing with it in light of those economic circumstances, and B, what's your feeling about, you know, this proposed new taxing regime, going into it knowing that, you know, a lot of your residents may have already been feeling economic hurt. Perhaps, Seleny, you could take that one, considering the amount of, or the hit that the tourism industry took.
Gavin, that's why in the opening address I said this trade license can be a pro and a con, no? And I believe some people are looking forward to it, but some people are very hesitant. Reason being is that a lot of business have not been operations. For example, nightclubs have not been in operations for 2 years due to the current SI. So, you know, having them have to pay a trade license now, they're like, but we have not been in operation, and if we want to operate, we have to pay it? And I'm telling them, well, let us wait a while, let us see what the formula is, what they will charge. When I consulted a local government, they said they were still working on it. So I guess once the formula is revealed and people feel as though they are being charged fairly, then it will not be a problem. But a lot of the smaller business are really worried about what the fee is and how the calculation will be done. So we have to wait and see how that will play out.
And what about in Seine, Bight? What have the past 2 years been like for the council?
In reference to the pandemic?
Yes.
Well, I must say in its first instance, we did really felt the whip of the pandemic. No? At this point in time, I think we're feeling the tail end, of course. With the opening of the country, we must say that we're pleased. I am personally able to see our residents starting to get some work again. However, we try to bring comfort into the houses of our residents now, with not a lot, of course, but try to make sure that they're comforted and know that we're by their side. I must say, though, as it relates to our businesses within our community, we are tailed in from the north and the south by huge and large businesses. If we look at our revenues after calculation as it relates to liquor license, it is a minor 5,000 to 6,000 that has been collected from within our locals in itself. It is primarily those highfalutin businesses that are to the north and south of us, no? These resorts, hotels, and all these different types of things. I would think these businesses are in a position to pay these trade licenses. As it relates to our locality, of course, it all has to do with what Seleny said, the mechanism that will be put in place, the formula that will be put in place. I would hope that it would be that of liquor license, whereby it can be placed in classification and different types. And like Mr. Bennett said, it's all depending on the size of your business. You know, one would say when you pay water, there is a flat rate, right? So like for the locals, you could put a flat rate for them, because as you would know, they would not be generating much funds like these other larger businesses like the supermarkets or the different stores, no?
Yeah. So let me, when you hear the talk of the reform and you take stock of the number of businesses that you have and the potential that you may collect in trade license, what's the thinking in being able to offer improvements to villagers? So let's start with you, Bernardo, because you said that it's something that your villagers have been asking about for a long time. What do you envision with this reform, whatever formula is agreed upon, that you would be able to offer, the village council would be able to offer to residents?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, Marlene, is jobs. That could be based on the amount of revenue collected, could be yearly around the year jobs, daily jobs, weekly jobs. It could be monthly jobs. You never run short of needing jobs for your community. And secondly, in return of these jobs, your community will in return be kept clean. It will improve the quality of life of the community. Like I said, it all depends on what amount of revenue we'll be collecting. And then once you can basically ascertain the amount of revenue we'll be collecting, then you can go and look on a budget and to see how you can invest these money in infrastructure development and in the human development of your community.
And for you, Seleny?
There's two important things there, Marlene. Of course, we'd have to, I think, maintaining our Sunday streets is costly, and one of the things that this present council have been talking about is having a kind of like our own works department for continuous street maintenance. So that's one thing we would want to do. And another that we've been constantly talking about is proper garbage pickup, because we don't have a garbage pickup system here, and we've had continuous problems with makeshift garbage dump along the way to the actual collecting station. So those are two of the ways we would probably think of, utilizing that money. Of course, that we will have to hire locals to do these jobs, so there will be some job creation in this.
And what about you, down in Seine Bight?
Primarily, Ms. Marlene, what this will do is that it will concrete what we're actually doing within the community. That is, we will have enough fund to have more employment for our youths, our community members within our community. We will have full-time workers, that is, need not to worry about where the payment will be coming from, because then a budget will be drafted out. Although a budget has been drafted out, but the funding is not enough. So we need to be resourceful to find that. At this point in time, we have a private contractor that takes out our garbage. So this funding will allow us to not only purchase a compactor garbage truck, but to also pay our employees as they work on that truck. Two, it will allow us to do more community projects within the community, that is working with the school, the churches, and other social groups within the community. I can fairly tell you that after consultation with the administration of the primary school, they made mention to me that they would want a gate, or to not to have their schoolyard being fenced. And after looking at the cost of that fence, we're looking at almost $50,000 to $60,000. Well, I could tell you we don't even collect that for the year through liquor license. But if we have these different revenues coming in, then of course, where there is a will, there will be a way to start up getting those projects done. Our Christmas drive and toy drive will be more big, as we would be able to put more smiles on households' faces, primarily our children, when they receive those gifts and that joy at Christmas celebrations that we have to deal with, like the November 19th celebrations, you have the September celebrations, and all those different types of things. That is where this funding will be able to assist the community wholeheartedly, and to be self-sufficient of its own. You know, they say money moves when you want to get something done. However, with funding and proper communication with your community members, everybody will be involved and more work will be done the way they ought to be done.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning and allowing us to see from your perspective what this proposed reform, how it would impact your communities. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you too.
Thank you
All right.
too. Thank you for having us.
Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
And with that, we are going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Belizean doctor practicing in Trinidad, Professor Shamir Kawich, coming up in just a few. Stay tuned.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.